Hi, I'm life coach Sean Griffiths, and I'm about to show you a presentation which is about changing your past. Now, this is so important because we go through our lives and we carry this bag, this suitcase full of stories that we keep collecting about ourselves and the world. And often some of these stories, we're the victim, or we might be the villain, or something else that doesn't serve us. We never notice. We never look at those stories. And I want to show you that story in a new light so that it serves you better and it's lighter when you repack your baggage to move forwards into the future. Maybe you become the hero of the story. Please do click like if you enjoy the video and subscribe so you can catch the next videos. And also, very importantly, share it, because by sharing it, we can make the world a more fun and exciting place, one session at a time. Thank you and enjoy the presentation. I'm going to talk to you today about how to change your past. Firstly, I'll tell you one of my stories in my suitcase full of stories from the past. I'll talk about Cinderella, how we can repack that heavy suitcase. I'll tell you how I repacked my story. And finally, we'll discuss your suitcase. We'll also do little experiments together as we go. So if you want to take part in the experiments, then get a pen and a piece of paper or your phone notes out. Please do write it down because our brain distorts things over time, and there's just something about getting it out into the real world on paper or a phone. So to begin, the first part of the experiment, have you a story from your past which gives you feelings which don't serve you? A story you keep telling yourself over and over. Maybe one where you're not the hero, but the villain and betrayer, or the baddie, or the victim who suffered for years. Or alternatively, some memory from the past which you avoid and push away because it hurts or is uncomfortable. Have a think. And if you need more time, just pause the video. Now, I'd like to take a measurement of how you feel about this past event now. On a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is there is no negative feelings about the past event, and 10 is you either feeling the dread villain or feeling hugely uncomfortable thinking about it. How do you feel now about that past event? And write the number down. So on with the story. Let me tell you my story. About 10 years ago, I was sitting in a coffee shop reading the newspaper, and I got a call from my best friend, also my ex-wife, who I was caring for while she went through cancer treatments and their after effects. So she was on the phone from the hospital in tears, and to cut a long story short, she really wanted me to come to the hospital. I was very logical and said that it would take an hour for me to get there, by which time she would be finished and on the way home. Very sadly, later in the year, she passed away. I was devastated, and that particular incident started to mean more and more to me, how I let her down and wasn't there for her when she asked for me. I had the thought I should have just gone, no questions. I felt terrible and like a traitor. In fact, the title of my story would have been The Betrayer of Friends. What about your story you're telling yourself? After training as a life coach, I've had what you might call a paradigm shift about my story. I no longer feel the traitor, but someone who cared deeply about their friend. I've come to realize that though we can't change the facts in the past, we can change how we see it and what it means to us. I'll come back to my story later, but to demonstrate some ideas, I'm going to bring up Cinderella. You know the story of Cinderella, evil stepmother, glass slipper, and prince. What do you take away from that story? Was it a happy story of love and romance, or liberation gone wrong where a woman can't succeed on their own? Some of us take one story and belief away with us, and some another. What's positive about the story and what's negative? What would you decide to take away from it? Have a think. Because this is what we do with our past. We take part of the story and pack it away and bring it into our future. We have a suitcase, or nowadays a wheelie bag, we carry through our lives, and it gets heavier and heavier as we go. We keep filling it with stories about ourselves, but we forget to check it and sort through it. And also, we often err on the side of the negative too, because our brains are programmed to look for the negative. Okay, to the second part of our experiment. From the story you thought of at the beginning, I want you to think of what you're currently taking away with you in your suitcase. One belief about yourself or the situation you carry with you which doesn't serve you. Once in one sentence, try to sum up what you're making that story mean. Have a think about it. And mine will be I'm the betrayer of my friend. But other examples are I'm no good with people, I'm a terrible person, I never succeed. Just have a think and write it down. Write that one sentence down. Your past is like the Cinderella story. You brought that belief story with you without examining it. All these thoughts about you and the story. For example, that one sentence you just wrote down. However, you actually get to make a choice what beliefs you're going to take with you into the future because it is your choice. This is the most important demonstration here of the whole thing. Okay, so we're here now in the present, the now. Every thought we're having is in the now. When you think about your past, we're telling a story now about the past events. In fact, there is no old pain or any feelings you're still suffering either, because, well, we think our feelings are coming from the past. However, they're coming from something we are thinking now in the present about something in the past. And in fact, the future is the same. There's no future feelings. However, that's another topic for another time. Our brain only works in the now. A key point here, we think our thinking about our past is fixed and we have no choice. But you actually get to decide what you bring into your future by changing the way you think about it now. You get to leave behind anything you don't want to bring with you, and you can release it forever and move on. Our minds are a messy place, and it's the one place which really is worth sorting through to improve your life now and in the future. That's where a life coach can be very useful and can help you. Okay, my repacking. When I finally went through my luggage and started to unpack my betrayer story more carefully, I came to realize that if I hadn't had that incident of not listening to her request, I would never have reacted the way I did months later. As I was about to go into an appointment, I got a text from her dad that she'd taken a turn for the worse, and this sometimes happened. I remembered my betrayer story and experience and decided to go with my gut feeling this time. I raced over and we managed to have a last few moments and a few words together before she became unconscious and passed away a few days later. By sorting through my baggage, I decided this was the memory which served me. This is the story packed carefully into my suitcase to carry with me into the future. And I tell you this story because it's so important to look at your beliefs about the past, those beliefs and thoughts you keep in your suitcase and carry through life. You can suffer for years when just by looking at how you're decided to see the past can change your past to serve you better now and into the future. So what about your story? And just before we look more into that, I have to mention what I mentioned a little bit before. Our brains are programmed to look for the negative. This is a story for another time. However, sometimes we need to look closer for the positives. We all err on the negative, and there is nothing wrong with this. It's often our default setting. However, maybe it's useful to give equal airtime to something positive alongside something negative. Now, back to the experiment, the next part. That story at the beginning and the thought or belief in one sentence you wrote down. Can you think of another way to think now about your story which serves you better? Have a look at that thought. Now, if it's not the story you want, I want you to challenge yourself to come up with a story, belief, or thought in one sentence which now serves you. Think of reasons the first thought might not be true. Something positive, where now you can think of yourself as the hero in the story. And this is just an experiment, a rainbows and daisies world. You may not quite believe it yet, but just have an experiment. Your animal brain will not want you to find the positive because it likes negatives. It's programmed that way. But just have a thought. Some examples might be, she was doing the best she knew how. People get to be the way they are, and that doesn't change who I am. I showed anger because I was passionate and cared. Have a think and write that sentence down. Remember, what you are thinking and recycling is what is creating your feelings and actions now, today. I've lots of exercises like this, which we can do in a one-on-one session if you'd like. What are the beliefs and stories you want to have about your past, ones which serve you going into the future? Do you want to rinse and repeat old thoughts and beliefs, and this will keep you the person you always have been? Or do you want to practice having new beliefs about the past which serve you better? Do you want to stay the same or become the human you always wished you would be? It's all your choice. So now you've listened to me for a few minutes, I want to check in with you. The final part of the experiment, to take another measurement. How do you feel now about your past event? On a scale of 1 to 10, where 1, there is no negative feelings about the past event, and 10 is either you feel huge negative feelings or you're very uncomfortable thinking about it. Write that number down. How does it compare to the number you wrote down earlier? Has it changed? Maybe not. But if it has, even one number less, that's quite a lot for a short video. You don't necessarily have to believe these new stories yet, but you're getting there. If you'd like to take a little look at your suitcase and have help repacking it, then just book a one-on-one mini session with me. Now, just a little bit of homework, if you want. Spend some time on this. I want you to define your past in one sentence and write it down. It might be, I'm an angry person. I've not been living the life I'm supposed to live. And then I want you to challenge yourself and change that sentence to something which serves you better. It's just an experiment. I can tell you mine. My life has made me the strong person I am today. So thank you for watching this presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. And I just want to remind you that if you enjoyed it, please do subscribe and click like and share this video. Thank you.